The first time his wife called me, I was in his bed. His cologne still clung to my skin, the sheets were still warm, and my heart was still pretending I wasn't just a convenient body. She didn't scream. She didn't accuse. She just asked me, "Are you the one who paints?" My throat closed up. I remember staring at the half-finished canvas across the room, the one he said reminded him of Venice, the one I painted while waiting for him to text. I couldn't answer. She didn't wait. "I found your brush in his suitcase." I figured I'd call the artist directly. That night, I learned silence can be louder than any slap. I waited hours for him to call, to explain, to lie again with that perfect smirk of his. But he never did. He ghosted me like a coward until yesterday. He showed up at my studio, soaked from the rain, eyes wild, and whispered, "She knows everything." And all I could think was, "Did you ever know me?" Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone, because this doesn't end how you think. It started with paint on my hands and no one to notice. I was alone, again, in the gallery's backroom, brushing strokes across a canvas that felt more like confession than creation. He came in with the kind of presence that bends the air. A stranger in a navy suit, wedding ring glinting under the track lights, pretending to admire the art but watching me instead. I should have ignored him. Should have handed him a brochure and turned away. But when he said, "Your reds are violent," I like that, I looked up. And I smiled. I don't know why. He came back 2 days later. Then again the next week. Always dressed like money, always pretending to care about art, always finding some excuse to stay. He never gave me his name, and I didn't ask, not at first. There was a comfort in the anonymity. I was the lonely painter, he was the mysterious admirer, and together we built this fiction. Until one night, after too many glasses of wine at the exhibit opening, he walked me home. And on my front steps, under the flickering porch light, he kissed me. He pulled away quickly, apologizing with his eyes but not his mouth. "This doesn't have to mean anything," he said, voice low. "I'm married. But you make me feel something I haven't felt in years." And like an idiot, like a romantic, like a fool, I let him in. The affair unfolded like a beautiful lie. At first, it was stolen afternoons. Coffee that turned into hours. He said he worked in finance, boring, predictable, suffocating. I never asked too many questions. I told myself I didn't want the truth. I wanted escape. But really, I wanted him. Not just his body. Not just the heat of his hands on my skin. I wanted the version of him that showed up in my studio and stared at my art like it was sacred. I wanted the man who said "you matter" while tracing the scars on my wrist like they were stories. But there were signs. Texts he ignored. Calls he silenced. Lipstick he wiped off with too much urgency. One time, I found a child's drawing in his bag, a stick figure with "Daddy" written under it in crayon. I asked, "Do you have kids?" He hesitated. Then smiled. "Not really. She miscarried once, and we never tried again." I didn't believe him. But I didn't press. I knew if I pushed too hard, the fantasy would shatter. And still, I fell. Hard. He brought me little things, a charm bracelet, a vintage record, a postcard from Italy he said reminded him of the life he never had. He whispered poetry against my neck. "You're the only place I feel real," he told me once, right after we made love on the gallery floor. I laughed, because I thought he meant it. I thought I was special. I thought I was the exception. But secrets rot from the inside out. And the moment I found her lipstick in my bathroom drawer, coral, expensive, and cruelly out of place, I realized I wasn't the only one pretending. The lipstick wasn't mine. That much was obvious. I hadn't worn coral since high school. I remember standing there, paralyzed, holding it like it might explode in my hand. My bathroom, my space, suddenly felt like a crime scene. I replayed every moment he'd been here. Had she come with him? Had he brought her here while I was gone? Or worse, had she come alone, looking for answers I didn't know I was giving? I confronted him the next morning. My voice was calm, too calm. "She's been here," I said. He didn't flinch. He didn't deny it. He just looked down, exhaled hard, and said, "She knows something. I don't think she's ready to say it, but she's watching me." His words hung in the air like smoke, curling into parts of me I didn't want touched. I should have screamed. I should have ended it right then. But I didn't. Because by then, I wasn't just hurt. I was addicted. She started showing up. Not directly, she was too smart for that. But I felt her. At exhibits, at coffee shops I hadn't told him about, at the farmer's market where I sold small paintings for rent money. She'd hover on the edge of my vision, sunglasses on, never speaking, just present. It was like being haunted by a woman who hadn't died yet. And the worst part? I admired her. There was a quiet fire to her. No hysterics. No begging. Just a steady gaze that said, "I know who I am." Do you? One day, I left a note for her. I placed it on the edge of my gallery window, right next to a small oil painting titled "Other Woman." It said, "If you want to talk, you know where to find me." No lies. She never picked it up. But the painting sold the next morning. Things between him and me got colder. Less touches. More excuses. He started checking his phone during sex. I started checking my soul for pieces I'd lost. I painted darker. Drank more. I told myself I could handle this. That if I could just wait it out, she'd leave him and I'd get the version of him I loved. The one he pretended to be. But the truth was, he never really left her. Not in mind. Not in body. Not even when he was inside me. The breaking point came on a Tuesday. I had just finished a new series, raw and emotional and furious, all shades of blue and betrayal. He walked in unannounced, eyes wild, hair messy, and said, "She confronted me. She knows everything." I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't let him finish. "So what now?" I asked, voice cracked. "You run to me like I'm your shelter, but I'm just the place you go when home gets hard." He looked at me like I was a mirror he didn't want to face. "I love you," he said. But the words felt borrowed, like something he'd said too many times before. Like a costume he forgot to take off. And for the first time in months, I didn't believe him. I painted him for the last time the night he said "I love you." Not the version he sold me in whispered lies and tangled sheets, but the real him. Cold, unreadable, always half turned away. I didn't use any reds. Just steel blues, muted blacks, and one long streak of pale yellow across his chest like a wound that never bled. It wasn't a portrait. It was a funeral. And it sold within a week to a collector who said it reminded her of someone she used to trust. I didn't tell him. I let him keep texting me like nothing had changed. Like I hadn't seen the quiet panic in his eyes when he admitted his wife knew. Like I hadn't caught the faintest trace of her perfume on his coat one night when he showed up late, claiming he'd been at the gym. But his lies were no longer knives. They were ash. They didn't cut, they just settled, quietly, on everything I once believed in. He started unraveling. Slowly, at first. More silence. Less passion. Once, he forgot my birthday, then covered it up with an impulsive weekend trip to a cabin in the hills. It felt like a bribe. It worked like anesthesia. I let him hold me in front of a fire he didn't light, in a house he didn't own, telling me things like maybe someday, while we both knew someday was never coming. I saw her again. This time, she approached. No pretense. No mask. Just a woman who looked me straight in the eye and asked, "Do you think he told me everything?" I didn't lie. Probably not. Her lips curled, not into a smile, but something heavier. He said you meant nothing. That it was just physical. And that gutted me. Not because she believed it. But because I had. She left me with one sentence I still can't forget: men like him always fall in love with the mirror, not the reflection. I didn't understand it then. Not fully. But now? Now I do. I wasn't a woman to him. I was an echo of his own desire. A fantasy who fed his ego. A living, breathing escape from the responsibility he resented at home. I stopped answering his messages after that. I didn't block him. I wanted him to see the silence. To feel the distance. He sent flowers. I threw them out. He emailed me pictures of old paintings he'd bought from me, saying they reminded him of us. I deleted them. I wanted to hurt him, but more than that, I wanted to heal me. The gallery offered me a solo exhibition. My first. I named it Unbecoming. It was a collection of everything he broke in me, turned into color and canvas and rage. She came to opening night. Alone. We didn't speak, but she left a card on the guest book table. It read, "I'm glad he didn't ruin your art." And then, he showed up again. At my door. Rain-soaked. Eyes hollow. Saying, "She left. I have no one else. You're all I have." And all I could think was, I was never yours to begin with. He looked nothing like the man I met that first day in the gallery. His shirt was wrinkled, his hands shaking, eyes bloodshot like he hadn't slept in days. The rain made his face look younger, like he was pleading from inside a memory. He stood in my doorway, soaked and small and lost, saying, "She's gone." I thought she'd scream, I thought she'd break things, but she just packed her things and walked away. I didn't invite him in. I leaned on the doorframe, crossed my arms, and said, "And now what? You come here because you think I'm your prize for surviving your own disaster?" He looked stunned, like it hadn't occurred to him that I might have moved on too. That I had rebuilt. That I wasn't waiting on the edge of his choices anymore. "I love you," he said again, and this time, it felt pathetic. I don't know if he realized how empty it sounded. How love, from his mouth, was a currency he'd already spent on too many lies. I asked him, calmly, "Do you even know my middle name?" He blinked. Then looked down. Silence. That was the moment it died, whatever phantom of a connection I was still pretending existed between us. I stepped back, not with rage, not with revenge, but with clarity. "Go home," I said. "Or wherever home is now." He didn't fight. He didn't cry. He just turned around and walked into the rain, a man who'd lost both women he tried to possess without ever really knowing either of them. I closed the door and didn't collapse. Didn't scream. I made tea. Lit a candle. Sat by my window and watched the water drip off the leaves. The storm passed, as all storms do. And I painted. It wasn't a sad painting. It wasn't angry either. It was light. Gentle strokes. Bright colors. It looked like healing. Like forgiveness, but not for him. For me. For the girl who thought she could make herself lovable by being needed. For the artist who confused chaos with chemistry. For the woman who finally realized that being chosen doesn't mean being cherished. Weeks later, I got a letter from her. Handwritten. No return address. It said, "You were never the villain. Neither was I. We both believed him. But I left before I lost myself. I hope you did too." I did. And for the first time in years, I don't need a man's eyes on my art to feel seen. I see myself now. And God, she's beautiful.